Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about how you can lose body fat without having to track your calories. More specifically, we're going to be talking about 6 habits that you can implement to help you achieve a leaner physique, or if you're already pretty lean, to help you maintain that body composition. A lot of the times we use more quantitative approaches in the fitness industry, like tracking calories and macros to reach your own goals, or if you're coached, then you probably use it to have more control over your clients. First of all, I'm not against tracking your calories. And I've been tracking myself semi-regularly for the last 5 years or so. And I think if you want to lose body fat, then tracking your calories and macros is a great tool. And I'll definitely make a video in the future where I go over how to track your food intake correctly. However, tracking can be very stressful for some people, and constantly having to weigh everything, taking out your phone and logging it on MyFitnessPal just isn't for everyone. And some people might start obsessing over the exact numbers they have to hit, and that potentially could also have a negative effect on the relationship they have with food. Also, people don't really have an issue with losing weight, they have an issue with keeping it off. And realistically, most people don't want to track their entire life. So we need to make sure that we are creating the right habits for them, not just to develop a lean physique, but also to maintain it long term. So with all that out of the way, let's start with habit number 1, which is to have a set meal structure. And this consists of 2 things: your meal frequency, so how often you eat, and your food choices, so basically what you're eating during those meals. Basically, you want consistent meal times and then have between 3 to 5 meals a day, as very low frequencies of less than 3 times a day and very high frequencies of 6 times a day or more might decrease your fullness and increase your hunger levels. And in terms of food choices, you want the base of each meal to consist of a serving of some kind of lean protein and a serving of either fruits or vegetables, or ideally even both. Protein tends to be more satiating than the other macronutrients, and it's also important for building and maintaining muscle mass while you're losing body weight. It also has a high thermic effect, which basically means your body has to burn more energy in order to digest and metabolize it than it has to for carbohydrates and fats. And fruits and veggies are also very satiating and have very low energy density, which basically means they have very little calories per gram of food. For example, 100 gram of broccoli is quite a lot of food volume compared to 100 gram of nuts, but 100 gram of broccoli will fill you up and only contain about 35 calories, whereas 100 gram of almonds will provide about 600 calories. And in addition, fruits and veggies are also great for your health because they contain fiber and loads of vitamins. This isn't to say that you should only eat lean proteins and fruits and veggies, but making them the base of your meals is definitely a good idea. So habit number 2 is to drink enough fluid. And again, this one has 2 components to it. So there are a couple of studies that show that having about half a liter of water before your meal can help reduce how many calories you eat and how full you feel after that meal. To be honest, the data on this isn't super clear. Some studies find that it does decrease hunger, others don't really find a difference. But anecdotally, I do think that this one is helpful, and worst case, it just makes you drink a little bit more water and keeps you hydrated. Another thing that's super important is that you want to make sure that you're drinking only water and 0-calorie beverages instead of energy-dense drinks like sodas and juices, because it's just so easy to consume large amounts of calories from fluids, which can really hold you back in terms of fat loss. So for instance, making a switch from Coke to Diet Coke can be an easy fix just to make sure that you're having less calories but still getting that sweet taste. Habit number 3 is to be physically active. And this is a no-brainer for most people, because if you're physically active, then you will burn more calories, but it also really helps with regulating appetite. So people that are sedentary will be less in tune with the hunger and satiety signals, and that will often make them overeat, which will make it really hard for them to attain a lean physique. I'd recommend that you resistance train at least twice a week to make sure that you're building or at least maintaining your muscle mass. And if you need help with setting up a training program, then I've made a whole video about that topic, so be sure to check that one out as well. And then just try and live an overall active life. You'll often hear people talking about having to get in 10,000 steps a day, but really there's nothing magical about that number. Just make sure that you increase your activity if you otherwise live a very sedentary life. So try walking instead of taking the car if you get there in under 15 minutes. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Try parking further away from your destination, or ride your bike to work instead of taking public transportation. Habit number 4 is to eat mostly at home and choose your portions intentionally. So there are a few studies that show that people that eat out more often tend to have a higher BMI. There is one study that was carried out in the US that showed that for every 1 meal per week increase at either a fast food or a sit-down restaurant, there was an increase in BMI by 0.8 or 0.6 kilogram per meter squared. It obviously depends on where you go out to eat and what you order. So for instance, if you're always going to fast food restaurants and having very energy dense foods like pizzas, burger, fries, that's definitely going to have a different effect than if you go to a sit-down restaurant and have a chicken breast salad with low-calorie dressing. But in general, I do think it's good advice to eat most of your meals at home because you're in complete control over how you prepare your food. Whereas if you go to a restaurant, it's not the cook's job to look after your body composition goals. He just wants to make sure that the food is as tasty as possible. And when you do go out for dinner, there's a couple of things that you can do to make sure that you're making the best choices possible. So for instance, you can look at the menu in advance and decide on what dish you're going to get and then stick to that. If they have different serving sizes, you can choose the smallest one, or you can make sure that you share it with a partner. And you can ask them to serve any extras like sauces separately, and then decide on the amount that you're going to eat. Habit number 5, and one of the most important ones, is to practice eating mindfully. Especially in the modern world, we're constantly being distracted by being on our phone or by working. And that often leads us to just quickly eat without really paying any attention to how much we're consuming. And so what you want to do instead is to start eating more slowly and chew your food more, because there seems to be a lag between us eating our food and our brain signalizing that we are satiated. There was an interesting study that showed that people that were overweight on average chewed their food less than leaner individuals, and that by increasing the amount of times you chew your food, you automatically decrease the portion sizes that you consume. And while eating, you want to make sure that you're doing so mindfully and not being distracted by something else, because otherwise that can result in you eating more calories than you normally would. For example, there's one study with young women where they would eat lunch normally or in front of the TV, and then later on they would have a cookie taste test, and they would eat significantly more cookies after having lunch in front of the TV. So there definitely seems to be something special about being present and eating intentionally. And if you feel like you absolutely have to have a snack while watching TV, then just make sure that it's a low-calorie option like celery sticks or a piece of fruit. Habit number 6 is to plan ahead. There's this quote, "Failing to plan is planning to fail," and I definitely think there's a lot of truth to that. So for instance, if you're going food shopping, then you want to make a plan in advance of what you need to get. And then when you're at the supermarket, stick to it and don't be distracted by special offers. Also, you never want to go shopping when you're hungry, because oftentimes that will just lead to you making irrational choices. And then have a plan for the week. Know what you're going to be eating that week. Make sure that you have the things available, because otherwise you'll just revert back to ordering a takeaway. And when you're eating at home, decide in advance on the amount that you're going to eat and then stick to it. Don't just eat the whole package, but rather put the amount of food that you want to eat on your plate and then put the package away again. And ideally you want to limit the amount of snacks and sweets that you have at your house. And if you do have them, then just make sure that they're out of sight or out of reach, because otherwise that will be really tempting. And definitely avoid having them in the glove compartment of your car or at your workplace. The amount of habits you're able to maintain seems to correlate to the success of losing weight and keeping it off long term. But I'd start by just picking one that you think you can consistently stick to, and then slowly start building off of that. So I hope you found these useful and will start implementing some of them into your daily routine to help you reach a leaner physique that you can actually maintain. And let me know in the comments if there are any other habits that you think are useful at losing body fat and keeping it off. And if you are already lean and you want to put on some size, then make sure that you check out my last video where I explain how to lean bulk, so how to put on muscle without getting fat. So that brings us to the end of this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.